Is that Alicia Garcia coming in?
Hello.
Just wanted to make sure so we can send you guys the sheets that we're gonna screen share. And then you have the information ready for you guys whenever you need it.
Jen, do you want to go ahead and pull up the team parent tips,
Sure
the
thing.
most recent one, and that way we can go from there. Okay, well, while we're waiting for to see if there are a couple more people will get on, Jen and I will go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Gwen McMurray. My kids have been playing at Altamont for over 10 years. My little brothers played for Altamont back in the 80s, and so it's been a big part of our lives. I am the secretary, although because I'm a nurse, Jen has very graciously taken over doing a lot of the secretary jobs for me. I'm also the safety, safety coordinator.
Safety officer.
Safety officer.
Very intimidating.
Right?
Officer.
Yeah, because I'm a nurse and and very up to date on a lot of the ever-changing COVID policies within the state and county. So Jen, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I am Jen Shields, the vice president at Altamont Little League, also the majors player agent and the umpire coordinator. So you'll probably see a lot of emails from me, especially now that the seasons are going through. It's kind of really going to be transitioning to if you're in the majors or minors division, you'll be seeing emails from me as the umpire coordinator and get in touch with you on that. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. And we are here as volunteers, and we're so grateful that all you volunteers are coming together, because Altamont does not work without a whole lot of people helping out. So thank you very much.
Most definitely. Thank you, Jen. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm sure many of you have done team parenting before. Things are quite a bit different this year. And so we thought we'd focus on kind of the changes that have happened for team parents this year. There's a few more expectations and a little bit more of a workload for the team parents. So we want to make sure at any time during this, if you have a question, just go ahead and interrupt me. And then any additional questions or additional information that we need to get, Jen will send that out after. And then send it out to the other team parents. So welcome all of you. So this is the team parent hints that Jen will be sending out, and we'll just go ahead and get into it. And then again, if you have questions, just interrupt me. So team parent is probably one of the most important jobs within a little league team. And if you don't have a good team parent who is really staying on top of things and helping to manage the parents and the coaches, it can lead to a very difficult season for everyone. So I really appreciate the work that you guys are going to be putting in this year. For the season, ID badges are required for volunteers and coaches. I know that we have practices going on constantly. We make the ID badges in the office. So you just go in and get your picture taken. Make sure that all of you have done.
Actually, because of COVID, you'll send me your picture.
Oh, you'll send pictures. Sorry.
COVID. That's okay. Just to get a little less social distancing, or I can just click your picture alone in the boardroom. That works.
Okay. Yeah, as long as there's not too many people in there.
Yeah.
You do have to have your ID badge with you when you're on the fields, and that indicates that you have passed a background check and that you've been vetted and everything by the Little League. So it's really important that you keep those with you. We have a very nice machine and it does a great job. So, and they're pretty easy to get done quickly. So please make sure that go ahead.
Oh, and a tip is if you want to take a picture of your badge with your phone, because sometimes you'll forget your badge, but very rarely are you going to forget your phone.
Definitely. That's for the safety of the players. It's for the safety of the kids, and it gives us the opportunity to be able to answer questions and deal with issues as they come up. All of you have the contact information for Eric and Jen and myself and Hung. And if you ever have a question or something comes up that you don't know the answer to, you're always welcome to contact one of us. Because I work some pretty long hours, I'm always available by text. So I'll go ahead and give you guys my cell phone number so that you have it, especially if something comes up about COVID or about safety, or if you have a player that's been injured. My cell phone number is 505-688-1625. And Jen and Eric are on the fields quite often. So there's usually somebody from the board around or that can be there quickly. So if you do have a player who is injured, there's paperwork that needs to be done. So if you have any questions about it, please don't hesitate to contact one of us right away. So picture day, we don't have it completely nailed down yet. We are working with the photographers, and as soon as we have a date for that, we'll get it set up. We were able to do pictures last year in the midst of COVID, and I think we'll be able to pull it off again this year. Concessions are not allowed, meaning also snacks. So that's one nice thing about that you don't have to do as a team parent, is figure out the snack schedule. Players are welcome to bring their own snacks, especially if you have a kid who has issues with hypoglycemia, or you're going straight from school to a game. Pick them up something to eat, allow them to eat. Make sure that if a child is eating anywhere on Altamont's campus, that you make sure that they're not anywhere within 6 feet of another child or another participant. We don't want to say you can't have food there at all, you can't eat at all, but you need to maintain that social distance and use safe practices. We have hand sanitizer and things like that throughout dugouts in the field. And so if you, if they eat something and they want to clean their hands off, that we'll have lots of hand sanitizer around for that. Games canceled due to weather will go out on social media. We're not doing texts or rain out. That requires extra money to be able to do the rain out stuff. And so that will go out via social media, so Facebook and Twitter. And then again, you can also contact one of us, but generally, if a game is going to be rained out, the decision is not made until basically game time. So make sure your parents know that if the weather looks crappy, we anticipate being there. Generally, the one time that we will cancel games is if there's lightning, because we're using metal bats and surrounded by metal fences. So again, we won't do that until basically, if the game's at 5:15, it won't happen until 5. So make sure that all of your parents know that, and so that you're not getting a whole bunch of texts and questions in the hours leading up to a game. Volunteers are needed for extra sanitizing between innings. So we are allowing children that want to wear catcher's gear to do that. I know that, there are a lot of restrictions and guidelines around how many innings you can catch if you're going to pitch. Also, those types of things. If you're going to be switching between players in the catcher's gear during the game, you'll have to use the Lysol spray sanitizer to clean those catcher's equipment. Yes, Jen?
And that's only for the majors and minors divisions.
Yeah.
So rookie T-ball, we will not bother with catchers.
So you do need to use the Lysol spray as soon as they take it off, and allow it to dry before you put it on another player. The reason for that we have to use the Lysol instead is because it's permeable, and that's the only thing that'll work to be able to sanitize those things properly. Probably the cleanest.
Gwen and Jen, can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
This is Alyssa, by the way. I'm just looking at the start. I think Saturday it says it's the first. I'm going down just a little bit. The first official start of the game or season. It seems like if we don't have volunteers to do all these extra duties per COVID, which we do need more people, but it seems as time is marching on, and it will march on quickly before Saturday. I don't know, and I have doubts that we're going to get the needed people if people already haven't volunteered. So I wanted to know what you guys were all thinking, because I just don't see a crush of people volunteering between now and Saturday if they hadn't already signed up. So that was just something I was thinking about and wanted to see what you guys all thought.
What I would do in that situation, I know that there are often a lot of moms and dads that want to help out with things in the dugout. And I think if you put, especially like this evening, send out an email and say, look, this is what we need to do in order to be able to play safely. We really very much need these volunteers. If the volunteers aren't available, the coaches are going to have to be the ones responsible, the coaches and the team parent, for doing all of these extra duties. And so it's really important that we ensure the safety and kind of press the parents to kind of step up and help with these things. So I know it's a short time period. A lot of things have changed very quickly, and we're doing the best that we can to try to get the kids out on the field, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you're running into problems getting help with that, please reach out to me or Jen, and we'll see if there's something that we can do to try to help you.
Okay, so like y'all suggest like a group text tonight or tomorrow saying, this is what we need, please, in order to have these games go on safely and comply with COVID rules.
And I think, hopefully you'll be pleasantly surprised and people will step up and say, well, I can clean,
Sure.
bats.
All right. I'll say, all right, thank you.
We've all been in that situation where we're wearing lots of hats, and that's part of volunteering with Little League, is that you either have everybody wants a job to do, or you're really just struggling to try to get people to help out. So I do sympathize with that, because I have been in that situation many times. But please just reach out to us and we'll try to help you find a way to get the volunteers that you need. Okay.
So a question for the younger divisions: what all, for like rookies and T-ball, what all are we sanitizing between innings, since we won't have catcher's gear?
So we're recommending that each of the players have their own helmet, and if they don't have a helmet, that one is issued to them for the season, so that you don't have kids switching helmets.
Yeah, they got that, as far as I'm aware. They all have their own.
Right.
And the bats, if there's no bats at all, just there's the bleach spray bottle and paper towels in the dugout, in that third base dugout closet.
Right.
And they can just wipe down the bats.
Okay, but if they're not sharing bats, they all have their own helmet. We don't have catcher's gear.
Then there's nothing to sanitize except after the games to kind of wipe down, each team kind of wipe down the dugouts a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to clean their own stuff.
And-
We recommend that they change out of their uniforms shortly, or whatever we're going to be wearing, because we don't have the uniforms yet, but that they change when they get home, and wash those things right away, just because they've been around kids that they normally wouldn't be cohorting with.
Right.
And really, my boys have been playing soccer, and we haven't had any outbreaks or anything like that. We've been able to get through the season without any extra issues related to COVID. So just recommend that they clean their stuff before they come, or right after the game, preferably right after the game. And then that way they're taking their stuff home and it's been sanitized, so that, if they have someone who's vulnerable at home, that they've already done that. The other thing is, we highly recommend that you use the Shutterfly or something similar to that. Jen and I have both used the Shutterfly, and it works out well, because you can, Alexa, if you're not getting the volunteers that you need, then you just start volunteering people, and you say, this is your day to clean up. This is and when you go onto the Shutterfly site, you can go in and name volunteers for things like we normally would do with snack. And so you can say, you know, we're away this game. The Baker family is responsible for cleanup, and so they're responsible for doing all of the trashes and taking them out to the dumpster and putting the new trash bags in, those types of things. So sometimes that helps, and then it's up to them to find somebody to switch with them if they are unable to meet that volunteer need for that game. Jerseys and hats are not available by the time the games start. So Jen, I don't know if you guys put something out, whether we're going to do like
so I'm
lights
gonna-
and darks.
Yeah, so I'm gonna quick share the Shutterfly example
Okay.
so that people can kind of see what we're talking about. As far as so that was last year's 2 years ago ball Shutterfly. So where it says so it has all this stuff, rosters, calendars. So it will look similar to the look.
The nice thing too is when you go into the calendar and you put the games in, it automatically sends a reminder email out to the parents the day before the game or the day before the practice, and it puts on there who is responsible for which volunteer activities during that time. It's nice because it automatically sends the reminders out and you and the coach don't have to do that.
So yeah, you can adjust this thing called snack schedule. You can adjust it to say like sanitize schedule, since we don't have snack schedule. As for, and your question relating to the uniforms, those were ordered on Friday and today. And so 2 to 3 weeks about the turnaround time because of the lack of jerseys and hats and stuff in the style we wanted. And it will, as soon as Lisa Garcia, she is the uniform coordinator, gets a clearer idea of what the time frame is, then she will be gathering up and separating the jerseys and hats into divisions and teams, and then asking the team manager to come and pick up the jerseys and hats. At that point, the team manager may reach out to the team parent to do that if they wanted it to happen during practice. So that's typically how it goes. Go into the boardroom, grab your jerseys and hats, and then hand them out to the teams. Now, I'm sorry, out to the players.
So if we don't have jerseys, well, we won't have jerseys by opening day. Are we doing lights and darks? Are we doing?
It's just whatever you want your child to wear.
Okay, so we're not trying to coordinate colors.
We're not trying to coordinate. No, we're not going to coordinate colors. It's whatever you guys want to wear, and hopefully by that following week of games, we'll have jerseys and hats.
Okay, sounds good. So the board decided to go ahead and finish games May 27th. That is the weekend or the week before, the Friday before Memorial. Is that right?
Yes.
So that if people have Memorial plans, we don't end up with not enough players for teams for that weekend. So if you're adding player names to the jerseys, do so before distribution because it's real hard to get them back. There's a couple of places. There's ASI Custom, which Jen added here. The other option is House of Soccer, which has moved to Wyoming and Candelaria.
Eubank and Candelaria.
Eubank and Candelaria, thank you. They have done a fantastic job for me in the past. They have a really quick turnaround, and they've just gotten a whole bunch of new equipment for putting names on jerseys. They also do like embroidery and everything now. So I can get the number real quick for them so that we can add it to that. The phone number, Jen, is 505-296-8417.
296-8417.
Correct. And they've been around forever, and they've like a extremely quick turnaround. So you can, have them done within a couple of days, and they have good prices too. So you do have to decide with the coaches what you're going to put, because I know that we've been in negotiations before on whether they're doing the kids' last names, the kids' first names, the kids' nicknames. So just make sure that you have figured that out before the uniforms come in so that it's easy to do. Color of pants, that's usually decided by the coach and the manager. It's usually white or gray. Oftentimes, a couple of times they've done black. So if you can get that information sent out to the parents as quickly as possible so that they can get those pants ordered, at least they'll have their pants, their new baseball pants for their first game.
And coaches do know their MLB teams. So the coaches will also know coordinating team colors to match if they want to. It's completely up to your team if you want to match socks and belts.
Athletic cups are mandatory. The children often enjoy letting you know that they have their cup. So you just need to remind them and just kind of send it out, have the coach send it out in their welcome email that they've, that those cups are mandatory, even for the T-ball, because those T-ballers can hit the ball pretty hard off the tee. All right, for umpires. Minors and majors teams are responsible for tipping teenage umpires. Most of our umpires in this league are teenagers. And so the way that we get around having to find parents that can know enough about the game to be able to umpire and are willing to volunteer, we have chosen forever with Altamont to have teenage umpires, and we pay them $20 a game. We tip them $20 a game. It's important as the team parent. I generally liked to kind of figure out what it was going to cost for everything before asking the parents for money, because it's really hard to get that money in. And if you have to do it multiple times, it gets really frustrating, and you end up with a deficit when it comes to cash on hand to be able to do those things. As the team parent, it's best that you are the one who does the tipping, just because after the game, the coaches are trying to get the cleanup, they're trying to do all of those things. And so it's easier to just you as the team parent to go out and meet the teenage umpire and give them their tip. So figure out how many games that you have. The home team is responsible for tipping the home plate umpire, and the away team is responsible for tipping the away umpire. If you have a parent that would rather umpire games than pay that $20, then they need to contact Jen so that they can get signed up and make sure that they have all of the qualifications to be able to do it.
I'm sorry, who is responsible for paying the $20 to the teenage umpire?
Each team, I would recommend that the team parent is the one who collects the money and distributes that money. And then that way it's not going between a bunch of different people and you're having to pay somebody who paid the umpire that time. So it's just easier to kind of get all of that collected as soon as possible. And then, so Jen put an example, you have 12 games times $20 is $240. If you have 10 players, then it's $24 per family, and then it's all taken care of. Adults and siblings are discouraged from umpiring games that their child or sibling are playing in, and that just is more for their protection than anything. That way there's no doubt or feelings that someone's being biased towards one team or another. It's still going to happen, but it helps to mitigate that a little bit. Majors and minors will be assigned a field and or home plate umpires for every game. If there's not one available, parents will need to umpire. Jen's working really hard to make sure that we have enough umpires for the games. Again, if it's really important that if you have a parent that wants to umpire, generally, if you have a parent that wants to umpire, we're going to ask them to umpire a different game. And then that way they don't have to pay that $20. Does that make sense? Again, so that we don't have that feelings of bias. Majors and intermediate teams will play other little leagues in Albuquerque. When teams play at Altamont, the home plate umpire is needed. And then when teams play other than Altamont, the field umpire is needed. And again, Jen is working really hard to coordinate all of those things as soon as we get the schedules up. There is a zero tolerance for poor umpire treatment, and it's our responsibility as parents and volunteers to ensure that we are encouraging each other, as well as the parents that are around us, to be thoughtful of the fact that if we don't treat our umpires well, we're not going to have any umpires. And so, you know, they're going to make bad calls. They're human, and that's okay. And so if you do have an issue where an umpire is being mistreated, it's really important that you talk to Jen right away.
Or if you have an issue with maybe the
With an
call
umpire.
that an umpire has, please don't bring it up to the umpire. You can always email me or text me, even if it's during the game, and I will go with and mediate.
Are we going to have our umpire, is it Bill, that goes out and works with the teenage umpires?
So we're having a training tomorrow. Howard Cake, he's the District 5 chief umpire.
Okay. And a lot of times they'll be out there, especially with the
So
umpires
I'll
that are-
ask, I'll see if Steve,
Oh,
it'll
Steve.
probably
Bill.
be, yeah. So we'll see who we can have. It's getting more difficult with COVID to get people to just come and sit and watch the games.
And any of you who have ever volunteered to umpire for a game, it is a lot of pressure. And when you're 15 years old and you're umping for 10 and 11-year-olds, it can be extremely intimidating. We want them to come back. We want them to continue to grow. We want them to get better at the umpire position. And so it's really important that we're taking care of those kids and making sure that nobody's being abusive to them. And that's not a team parent responsibility. That's a all parent responsibility, just to make sure that we're remembering why they're there and why we're there, and taking care to be kind. Medical info. Any other questions on umpires before we move on? Great. Medical info. All medical forms need to be at every practice and every game in case there's an emergency. There are, especially with COVID, you probably have already had kids that have been dropped off and then picked up at the end of practice. So if we don't have a parent there and a child is injured, we have to be able to get a hold of that family member and those emergency contacts right away. So it's really important. I often would go ahead and just build the binder for the coaches with all of the medical information in there. Take care to look and see if kids have any medical conditions or allergies. Of course, you know, we're not going to have snacks there, but that doesn't mean that a kid doesn't have like a bee allergy or something like that. It's just important to make sure that everyone's aware if there's a child who has a condition that we need to be concerned about if there's an issue. So the other thing is it also helps to pick up a roster book. I would just pick one up at Big Five. They're like less than $5. So that way the coach isn't writing a roster down feverishly on a napkin before the game starts to be able to give to the umpire. You need to, I like to get the books because it gives it to you in triplicate and you only have to write it once, and then you have one to give to the other coach, to the umpire, and to keep in the dugout. First aid kits are inside every third base dugout. We got all brand new first aid kits last year or the year before. So if there's something missing from one, or the first aid kit is missing, please let me or Jen know right away so that we can get it replaced and replace any, you know, I mean, Band-Aids and things like that. There's plenty of
Yeah,
those.
they came in right when COVID hit. So
Okay, so they're all still
they
brand new.
really shouldn't be very much use.
Yeah, but if you find that, you know, you go to get a Band-Aid and the first aid kit is barren, please just let one of us know. We'll be checking it and those types of things, but any help you can give us would be appreciated. All injuries and COVID-19 related issues need to be reported to me. There's my email. My phone number again is at the top of the sheet. So if you have questions, I know we had a question a couple weeks ago with someone who had been diagnosed with COVID and had been released to come back, but there was some confusion about whether or not they were released in like just verbal from their work or whether they were actually released by the Department of Health. So if you have someone test positive for COVID, it is really important that you let us know right away so that the contact tracing can be done and so that we can make sure that we decrease the possibility of having some sort of outbreak, because we don't want to be on the news for that. For under COVID procedures, do you want to put the
Sure
screen?
thing.
Okay. So really COVID procedures,
This was emailed out to all the families.
so it explains what the expectations are with dugouts, with the umpires. The umpires, we are going to leave it up to the individual umpire whether they want to be behind the plate or behind the pitcher. There's kind of differing views within Little League as to which is better. So we're going to leave it up to the umpires to make that decision. So make sure your parents know that the plate umpire will possibly be located in one of two places so that they're not confused and asking a bunch of questions and concerns about it.
A quick question on the dugouts there. So we are allowed to use the dugouts now?
Yeah.
Because beforehand it was talk about we're got to line them all up outside the fence or the bleachers.
This came out late today in the afternoon. And so it came out via the Altamont website. So make sure to let your families know to check their spam, because sometimes security levels on emails are high.
So
Right.
executive board.
I saw that come out. I was just kind of cut off guard because I thought we were going to have to line them all up. I'm very glad to
So
see
what
that we could
happened
use
is,
the dugouts.
what happened is NMAA has changed. And so we're going to be following NMAA's lead in baseball, and NMAA said they will allow players in the dugouts.
Again,
It's going to make
sure,
life easier.
yeah, make sure they're not
But
hanging all over each other and, you know, licking the posts and stuff in there. So
Well, yeah. I mean, we got the younger kids, so we do our best with all that, but no guarantees.
yeah,
But it is up to if the parents do not feel comfortable with that. Then,
Right, and that's understood.
then yes, as Gwen's gonna talk about what happens if the parents want to keep their kid out of the
so
dugout.
they can keep their kid out, but it will be their responsibility to make sure that their child is prepared for when it's time to go out on the field, when it's time to be on deck. They need to go up to the fence and be ready if they're on deck. Of course, we don't do on deck on the field. They're always outside of off the field anyway. But the parents need to know that it will be their responsibility to ensure that their kid is where they're supposed to be if they're choosing not to put them in the dugout. Because we can't be trying to wrangle other people's kids outside of the dugout. There's a reason we try to keep them contained. So questions on that? Awesome. So scorekeeping. Each team will need to have a scorekeeper. We used to have a scorekeeper clinic, but now you can just YouTube.
Actually, there is gonna be a.
Oh, are we doing one? Okay, good. I wasn't sure if we were.
It just
not.
came, yeah, it's another email that just came out. There'll be a
Okay.
clinic Thursday night.
And scorekeepers, minors and up, right?
Yeah, you, if you want to practice, if people want to practice it and you want scorekeepers from below, but really, as you know, it's take your base. Thanks for hitting the ball. Thanks for hitting the ball.
Right. If there's less than 5 errors on the play, that was a great play.
Right.
Hooray.
Absolutely.
So yes, minors, majors, intermediate.
And some coaches like to keep their own scorebook, and often teams will have two. The one that's in the dugout has to stay in the dugout, and the home team is responsible for keeping score on the
Third
dugout.
base dugout closet, yeah.
Yeah, on the home team is responsible for keeping score on that scorekeeper book, and that has to stay with the field. That book stays with the field. Each team doesn't get their own that they do. So if the team wants to have, especially in majors, if you want to have one that is kept by the team, then you'll have to do two. I used to do both of them at the same time. It is not easy. You cannot focus on anything else if you're doing that. A lot of the coaches like to keep their own book though. So you'll just have to figure out from them what they want to do. And often, I don't think we really run into problems with people not wanting to do the scorekeeping. It's kind of fun. So, if you have an older child that's comfortable with doing it, that's perfectly fine too. You just need to make sure that they're competent in it. We talked about the catcher's equipment. T-ball and rookies won't have catchers, no snacks, no concessions. And each player needs to bring their own water. I used to keep a case of waters. I still do keep a case of waters in the back of my car for if we run into an issue where a player forgets, especially in those younger teams. If a player forgets their water, then you have something that you can give them. We don't want them out there, especially it's about to get real hot in New Mexico here pretty soon. And we want to make sure that the kids are staying hydrated. If you, they need to keep track of their water though. So if you're handing out water bottles, it might be a good idea to get some stickers or a Sharpie to be able to write on them. Everyone over the age of 2 has to wear a mask until anything is lifted within the state and county government. So if we really don't want to have to be in charge of being the mask police, but there's a good chance that a board member will come by and ask you to put your mask on. And if they have to do it again, they may ask you to leave. So it's really important that parents understand that if you don't wear your mask, it really isn't a matter of preference. It isn't a matter of your ideals. It isn't a matter of your political affiliation. If you don't wear a mask, you put the entire league and all of those children at risk for not being able to play. It's not even about the COVID. If you're not wearing your mask and the kids aren't wearing their masks, they could shut us down. And so it's really, yes, all masks need to be put over noses, mouth and nose. More than anything, it's about the kids. And if you're not wearing your mask, there's a possibility that all of the kids won't be able to play because they will come in and shut us down. So just press that on the parents that it really doesn't matter whether or not you believe in them, whether or not you're vaccinated. This is what we have to do in order to get these kids out here and let them play. And so that's what we're going to do. Questions on that? Awesome. You want to go back to the other? You're a fabulous navigator, by the way, Jen.
We're all getting super great at Zoom.
Yeah, when a 5-year-old can master the Zoom, we're in a different place, aren't we? All right, you're responsible for finding a parent to be your, that's scorekeeper. Sorry, I already did that one. Home team preps the field. The prep, and really, this should not be the responsibility of the team parent. If anything, the responsibility of the team parent with this is assigning it if you don't have people that are willing to do it. It's rough on the coaches when they have to be responsible for setting up the field when they're trying to get their team ready. So if you have some parents who want to make sure that they have to have their background check done in order to step foot on the field, that are willing to help with that. And a lot of times you'll be able to get some dads that'll help you. After the cleanup, after the kids love to go get the bases and stuff like that to put them up, but you do need to rake. Hopefully we have all of the water to the fields, Jen. I haven't seen an update on
We
that.
do
yet.
have water to the fields, yes.
Fantastic. The county's been working on our water system and we were not sure we were going to have everything in order before the season started. So that's awesome. If you can wet it down, especially if there's going to be another game, that's helpful. The setting up the field is the thing that takes the longest and is the most arduous, and that is raking the field, wetting it down, and doing the lines. Well, we don't have to do the lines, do we? Just the box? Because we have the
box
turf
on the majors.
Yeah,
field.
that's fantastic. You
I
don't
mean,
have to do
the
all the
minors field.
Okay, so the box needs to be done.
Minors and majors, you just do the box.
And that's located in the closet also. Questions on that?
T-ball will have to do chalk lines.
Okay. Lines. There's, if you can keep them inside the lines, that's
Good.
yeah. Trash bags are kept in the closet. So regardless of whether the trash is full or not, especially because we don't really have snacks, unless it's empty, those trash need to be pulled at the end of the game and taken to the dumpster that's out by the softball field. The reason for that is the wind at Altamont is always blowing at 50 knots. And it encourages rodents, which we really have to work very diligently to keep rodents out of the closets, which we don't do well because it's kind of the desert. But everything that we can do to discourage having bringing rodents in is helpful. So it's helpful for you to hand out a roster to the parents that are watching the game so that they know which kids are which. Of course, you know, they won't know the first couple games because we won't have uniforms, but being able to cheer for a kid that you're not really sure who it is and make them feel special and make them feel like they're important out there is really, really great for everybody to do. Touch base with the managers at the beginning of each game to see if they need any help with things. It's, you know, team parenting is parenting a bunch of children and the coaches. So anything that you can do to kind of help get them to a point where they're able to focus on getting the kids ready for the game and making it fun and you know, getting things organized is super helpful for them. The other thing is it's customary for the team parents to get together a gift for the coaches at the end of the season. So, you know, the best thing to do right now is probably gift cards and things like that, and have all, you know, we've always had the kids sign a baseball for each of the coaches. I think that's something that that is special for the kids, and I think the coaches appreciate it. So, you know, a gift card and a baseball signed by the kids is plenty. We've done trophies and things like that in the past. You know, it's kind of a quick season. And so if you don't want to do trophies and you want to just do a little gift or, you know, a little party favor or something like that for the kids at the end of the season, that's perfectly acceptable too. Just make sure that you're including that when you're figuring out how much each family needs to pay in to those things. So, you know, if you have two coaches and you're going to buy them a $25 gift card each, make sure that you're adding that in there so that you don't get stuck with a bill at the end of the season.
So Gwen, how do you like to handle families that have two kids on the same team, siblings?
I have in the past, it really kind of depends on the situation, and I would have that discussion with those parents and just say, you know, are you guys able to afford the thing for each, or do we, if we have 10 kids on the team and 2 of them are siblings, do we break it up between 9 so that it's per family? I would just make that decision early and maybe talk it over with the coach to decide, you know, if it's only a couple dollars difference, if it's $25 difference, you know, it can be kind of a hardship for some of the families. So I would use your judgment on that after having a discussion with the coach on how to proceed.
And I'll just quick show the COVID logbook as well, so that everybody this is what is going to be getting. If you have not already been filling this out, many of you have been. Players, coaches, volunteers, any person that steps foot on that field, contact tracing. Whoever is doing the readings on the thermometer and asking these questions goes here. And, you know, as it gets warmer, as Gwen said, these are not, you know, really great thermometers. They read very low. That's why we have it set at only 100. But if it does go over 100, sometimes it's just because the kid's wearing a hat, has lots of hair, and has been running around before they even came to practice. And you just, if it gets over 100, have them sit down in the shade, maybe on the dugout for like a couple minutes, and then check them again. If it's repeatedly over 100, mark it here and they cannot play.
even though I've not seen a single child with COVID with a fever, but
Yeah.
those are,
It's
those are
you
the
know,
guidelines
that's
we
why
have right now.
that's why we make sure
That's why we check all the other
to-
things. too,
that's
though.
why we make sure to do the adults too.
Yeah.
And that's why we have the questions too.
For sure. Any other questions?
And going back to the trophies we get those then for the kids too, if the parents want to all chip in and do
Correct.
that.
Yeah,
And then-
there's often, I tend to go through Trophy Depot online is really good. And you can do dog tags instead of trophy, because we all have like 500 trophies in our house from every sporting event ever. You can do medals, you can do there's just a myriad of things, and even like the dog tags are really fun, and they're only a couple dollars a piece. So that's something that's really easy. You can go in, order them. It's fast shipping. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's gonna be my next question is vendors. So perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So sometimes it's just easier to do that, but they have some fabulous baseball trophies and they're not very expensive. So if you want to do trophies, that's fun for them.
Perfect.
We are not, there was one other thing. We're not going to be doing the sanitizing the balls, correct, Jen?
No, because of the fact that they're in the outside and in the lights so much.
Yeah.
We will be giving the coaches more team balls instead of having just, one per coach. We've given them a dozen, and then we'll give them even more so that coaches have at least 2 balls. And it was also stated that please don't have the kids go running for foul balls. If we can have volunteers and stuff after the game collect the foul balls and stuff, that would work out best rather than having a whole bunch of kids running after it and touching the ball all the time. It would work best.
I have to tell my husband that. I think everybody enjoys getting foul balls. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Do we know how many games we are expecting to play?
I'll field that to Daniel. He's our,
Yeah, it should be 12. T-ball's doing 10 and everybody else should be getting 12 in.
Okay. And how soon do we think, just because I had parents tonight already asking, how soon do we think the schedules will be out?
Which division are you in?
Minors.
Minors. So yeah, Tim has sent that out to the coaches for their approval. So we're just waiting any feedback as to if any of the coaches have objections to the dates.
Okay.
And it should be, what did we decide? 2 games during the week and 1 on the weekend?
Minor weekend, 1 weekend, 1 weekday for.
Okay, perfect.
or sometimes you might
Perfect.
have 2 weekdays and off a Saturday.
Right. Majors and minors, are a little heavier on some of the weekday stuff.
And we have a brand new, beautiful field. I'm sure you guys have all seen it for the Rookies 1. So
It is very nice.
yeah.
And that
It's
field
good,
prep,
'cause
that's going to be killer. Just having to set those bases down, do nothing else. I mean, that's going to be.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
so field prep is something that is starting to go away as more of these fields get fully turfed.
Very nice. Any other questions? Even if they're not something we've gone over.
I do have a question.
Sure.
This is silly, maybe you covered it, but my son's in T-ball and they will not have umpires. Like the coaches will just kind of manage how to direct them on the field. Okay, so I don't need to handle that, but can I kind of round up some of the actionables that I need to do real quick?
Sure.
So I need to ask parents to make sure they have their medical forms filled out. Decide if we're gonna do names on jerseys, decide on money, what we need to contribute, each of us, and ask for volunteers for like cleaning and field prep. Yeah. And so that should go out in like an email to everybody.
Correct. Yeah.
Probably. Okay.
Yep.
And then on a separate note, just actions for me, like to build a binder of medical forms, print out extras of the roster and schedules.
Correct.
Be good.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I generally would, in that binder, again, would keep, the rosters for the roster book so that we can fill it out before each game, because you'll have kids that are there and aren't there. Or if you just do straight rosters and then mark through them,
Mhm.
that might be easier specifically for T-ball.
Okay.
And then I would keep, I generally would keep a couple of the medical forms in there, the incident reports. Most of the incident reports can be filled out online, but of course, if you're on the field, it can be, if it's easier for you, whichever is easier for you, to be able to fill out, because you have to have the parents kind of do it with you.
Okay. Thanks.
So yeah, it did go out in chat that on the website, there's a tab called forms, and the medical release forms are in a PDF file on that you can easily just send straight out to the parents. But I do know that with majors and minors in the drafts, some of the coach, you may have given your medical release form to a coach early on, and now you'd have a different coach. And that's perfectly fine. You can let the coach you have now know which coach has your medical release form, or you can fill out another one. There are lots of blank ones at each of the fields, whichever you would prefer to do.
It's usually easy. Once you get those things done and you figure out how much money everybody needs to contribute, and you kind of get that all set, then the season generally goes pretty smoothly. It's just a matter of, getting those volunteers, and again, like I said, if you don't hear from them, then you just assign them, and it's their responsibility to find somebody to cover for them if they can't do it.
And to also have piggyback on Gwen signing people up for volunteers. If you're signing people up for scorekeeping or sanitizing, and you're signing them up via the schedule on Shutterfly or anything like that, since neither one of those volunteers are physically in contact with the children, they do not need a background check. So it makes it a lot easier if you want to do a schedule for sanitizers, because they are not going to be around the kids. They're going to be outside. And then after, when all the kids are gone, that's when they come in and clean things. So.
Fantastic. Well, if any of you think of something after this meeting, or need clarification, or have questions coming from parents, please contact either me or Jen, and we'll get that information out to you as soon as possible.
And I took down everybody who's on this Zoom meeting, and I will email this team parent hints out to you, so you have the information that was brought up here. And we recorded this Zoom session, and so that will also be made available for more training.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys all for joining us this evening.